Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to Some Guys Talking. It's beautiful January 24th. As you might hear, I've got some coffee just about ready, so I'm excited about that. Aaron, how the heck are you today?
I am doing awesome. Why don't you go grab your coffee?
Well, tell us how you're doing while I do that.
All right. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's doing fantastic this morning. It is great to see you. Whoever's joining us, thank you. You know what? I'm just going to dive in. So what is going on with me today? I went to the mailbox and I got 2 pieces of mail today. Literally, both of them say, do not bend. One of them is an AARP card. I've been getting these for years, okay? I'm only 50, almost 51. But most importantly, right here, look at this. Look at this beauty. Oh, boy. Here we go. Rip this open. Oh, I want to be careful here because this is, I've seen it online, but never in person. Look at this here.
Oh, woo! Look at that, everybody.
Beautiful. Look at
Very
that.
exciting. Very exciting.
Oh, two. Look at that. Look at that. I got the Legacy and the Music edition of Fat Nugs magazine. If you're not getting Fat Nugs magazine, you're a fool. You should be getting it. No, I'm just kidding. But you should have it. So shout out to Dustin and the rest of the team. Yes. See, I haven't. See, where'd you get yours? In like Vegas or someplace? I don't go to those places. Exactly.
I did indeed. It's a good
episode.
Well, they're all good issues. But anyhow,
right on. Love it. I can't wait to jump into the hard copy. This is awesome. And we're looking forward to Fat Nugs doing an amazing story on our CEO, Alan Hoffman, for Rooted Intellect. That's going to introduce the story of why we invented or why he invented the Bloom Carousel, because it was a product that was designed out of necessity for the mobility challenge. So so I'm excited. Awesome. Thank you, Dustin. You are the man. And thank you to the team. Daniel Crawford, I hope you're finally back on. We miss you. And it was great seeing your face on Friday.
Yes.
So that's what's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin, Fat Nugs. And in fact, that's a great segue because they are also excellent sponsors and media partners of the Beard Bros Friday Session Live, which is this Friday. So how am I doing? Well, I'm excited because, finally all this good hard work that we've been putting in is coming to fruition. And I'm really excited to be talking to all the great folks that'll be there and, and having some good synergies. It'll be good people, Elliot from Catalyst will be there, Maha Hack, others that are, really good luminaries and decision makers in the space, and just a lot of good people having good talks and hopefully generating some business together, and so we're really excited about that. And, there's just a lot of things working in terms of, Beard Bros in general's growth. Also let me give a quick shout out, as you can all see, to Bud for Blood. My colleague and friend Kristen Yoder runs this nonprofit. Just for a quick plug, honestly, go to bloodforblood.com and there's all sorts of fun stuff that you can learn there. Please support them, donate, etc. But a cool thing is when I was I really thought that if you consumed cannabis, you couldn't donate blood. I thought that it was in your bloodstream, and so that might, it would cause an effect. I feel like a lot of people maybe thought that was true if you didn't if you weren't super knowledgeable about the science or the medicine. But and I think she really tapped into sort of this thing in our psyche that was like, oh, really? Actually, it's cool. And what better community to give back than the cannabis community? Who wouldn't want to tap in more?
I thought about that. Yeah,
right. And so what a great marriage of those two things that you wouldn't necessarily think are there. That's why Kristen's really innovative and she's fun and smart, and I think it's a really good program because obviously we really do need blood donations in the world, in the country, so that's always going to be important. And who makes better donors than stoners?
There you go. Love it.
Anyhow, so speaking of which, let's hop in. Let's see what we've got on LinkedIn today. What are you seeing out there in LinkedIn land, Aaron?
I'm going to be honest, and it fits in with our the subject that we're going to talk about today. I have not jumped in to too much of LinkedIn because I've just been trying to prioritize my time with work. It's been a little bit frazzling. So, that I had therapy this morning at 10 a.m. and that was the work that I did. So, yeah, I'm not seeing much. What are you seeing? Tell me.
Well, I mean, most of the talk, at least in LinkedIn, is about Schedule 3 and, what that's going to look like for cannabis, that sort of a thing. there's a lot better kind of compliance and legal experts that can really drill into the nuances. However, it looks like there's a lot of pros and cons. I think that as it's being more defined, things are getting sort of flushed out.
What's the latest development with it? What's the news on it?
There's lately, I'm just saying that there's two important concepts. I should give Dana credit. Dana Cisneros, who's an excellent attorney here in Southern California, who helps a lot of cannabis company and people, basically just posted, and she was talking about some thought through it, how interstate commerce would be unaffected per the FDA framework that's out there. So not so great for sort of short term or people that want California, but that's also good that they won't be any issues to that would be unaffected per their framework, which is actually a good thing, for us. And then, ultimately, there is sort of the whole issue is, how are they going to basically conduct, this will allow for research, but it also might give, pharmaceutical companies a really strong sort of overhold on how things can process, which is, of course, a little bit scary for everybody in cannabis to entertain. So, but it sort of looks like it could be integrated based on what I'm seeing here a little bit better than we might think, or that it's not necessarily, maybe there's a way to kind of denote medical versus rec. I'm not sure. There's a lot to flesh out, but it just seems like there's a little more wiggle room there than maybe people had anticipated. It looks like. I don't want to overspeak, or again, not a legal expert. But work with a decent amount of lawyers, and definitely try to keep up on what the heck, what Schedule 3 is going to ultimately do to cannabis, because that'll affect everyone's business. I think the big get is, of course, that your expenses will be finally able to be comped, which is a pretty damn big deal. But then again, you can always start honing in on but this is just incremental change. If you really let the floodgates open, then all of this would manifest itself rather easily. So I think that's a fair argument. We're not here to debate that. I'm just sitting that's the knowledgeable sort of angles that people are talking about. And as a lot of things, it's kind of sort of wait and see, and try to be optimistic, but if our history is any indicator, optimism should be in short supply. So.
All right on. So what do we let's hop in, let's talk about something interesting.
You're excited. There's other stuff going on out here.
What else is going on?
Ultimately, but I guess to the larger point, though, a lot of times when we're looking at, being busy is and being overwhelmed is certainly important. And I think that is going to be a big part of what we talk about today. But I'm seeing some other things out there. Like there's, everything from, we had a post about the, New York governor's looking to remove the potency tax. Smart move, but it seems ridiculous. That's stupid stuff. So how about good job, New York, right? I see a lot of interesting stuff about cannabis beverages lately, mainly because I follow Diana Eberlein, and so she's very, very well versed in cannabis beverages. I'm always interested about sort of
what's your opinion on them? Do you use them? Do you consume cannabis beverages?
No, but I'm not the audience. I'm not the target demographic for that, right? I'm an old school stoner who enjoys flower and who's a very regular consumer. So I'm not the market for those beverages. I've tried many, like most of everything I've ever tried, to be fair. I could see them becoming a little bit more of a regular, part of my sort of routine, or just having them, in stock or whatever, especially if people come over that don't like to smoke, want to enjoy some cannabis. So I like them for that reason. And I think as I get older, that might be something that I want to begrudgingly admit that I might want to do more, in case, the smoking, starts having some negative effects, so, and I just want to see more product categories really take off anyways, because
absolutely.
That's better for the industry as a whole, no matter what. So yes, I like that beverages seem to be being adopted at a nice rate. It makes a lot of sense. It's a very easy, everything from like shots to, proper sort of take on soda or juice, etc. And anything in between that people want to do, syrups, elixirs, some of that's, food, some's not, it just depends. But ultimately, Yes, more product categories. I like cannabis is a commodity, so like it should be ultimately integrated into all sorts of things as long as it provides a benefit and people want to buy it, which I don't think that's
Right.
going to happen. So,
Right
so
on.
there you go. Anyhow, that's a lot of stuff going on. In fact, that's a big part of my life. Obviously, as you know, I work with companies that help produce products. We can do anything that you probably could think of, but all those other categories that I'd like to see, obviously there's a bunch of reasons why I'd like to see them grow.
Right
It's
on.
more opportunity for us, but also I just think that it's a better way to sort of diversify what you're doing, to maybe target other audiences, to develop your company in a way that you can do sort of methodically and strategically.
Mhm.
These are just, I mean, I'm biased, of course. It's what I do. But well, it's hot coffee. Anyhow, so that's basically I think other product categories, and I want to like maybe we can get some guests that come in and that are really specialists in those. Like hell, maybe Diana would want to come on. But anyways, point is
Mhm.
people like that I think would be really fascinating to speak with.
Mhm.
Especially about things we cover.
Right. Right.
So speaking of what we cover, I think it is probably time for our deep dive. Aaron, go ahead, tee us up.
Right on. So, what we were looking at and just thinking about, as per our conversations this morning when we hopped on, was really just kind of, I asked Brian how you doing, and he's got lots going on. He asked me how I'm doing. I got lots going on, and it's just, and it was also a subject of, I had therapy this morning with the world's greatest therapist ever, just being overwhelmed and being able to admit when you have a lot going on, and just you know I know for myself as a male, I'm not going to admit that I'm overwhelmed. I'm not going to admit that I'm tired. I'm not going to admit that I'm sick, probably because when I just being self-employed, you have to fix your mind that way because there are no sick days. So I always just said, tired, whatever. So I don't admit that. But the greater conversation was, with us, we all have so much to deal with in life, and, work, family, and all of it, just being overwhelmed and being able to admit that. So how does that speak to you?
Well, I mean, I think that both of us are. I think the only way that I can navigate all the craziness of everything that we're doing is by doing that,
Mhm.
to be truthful. So, and I see so many people struggle with it, right? It's funny. I make that I try at least to make that a really big part of, especially upfront conversations, in a business context. I think
Mhm.
it is important to acknowledge that, like, hey, if something's going on in your life, you can talk to us, and it's important that it's okay, and you don't understand that's not going to affect your job or your money or anything like that. And I think that if you can create environments like that in your workspace or with the people that work with, that is a really important thing. Not only does it obviously maintains respect for what we all experience at some degree, form, or fashion throughout our lives, but it does increase productivity. So
Can you
it
can you
also,
expand on that with just the judgment and being safe to speak? Because we all feel as though we don't want our coworkers to know our business. So can you speak to that?
well, I would agree. There's some nuance there. I don't think anybody wants to hear, everybody's got their own, as we all like to say. So if this is sort of part of your DNA to constantly complain and all that sort of thing, you're going to want to tidy that up. I don't think. But if things are going wrong in a serious way, right? Divorces, kids are sick, family issues, money issues, that sort of a thing.
Mm.
Yeah, I think you have to, like, there should be somebody that you can trust, ideally someone that helps make the decisions for you, or is your manager, or somebody who that you work closely with that affects this, to let them know, because if you're going to be affected, your performance will be like, these things will affect your performance. You
Oh
can't
yeah.
you can't help it. So you can try all you want to lie, or I'm going to be fine, or I'm going to knock the dust off and be cool, but it's a lot easier to basically just admit what's happening. Doesn't mean you can't work through it. If that's something that makes sense to you, and that's a way to sort of distract, maybe, that's healthy, right? As long as you're processing things, like, you just want to make sure that on both sides of that equation, if you're the person listening, right, you're maybe the owner, manager, what
Mhm.
have you, and the person who's basically coming forth with something that's wrong, you basically want to know that, like, hey, I can tell this person this stuff and they're not going to like leverage it against me, or they're not going to take this and go to our, a
Mhm,
boss like, oh dude, you should pay me and get rid of them because boy, they're a mess, like,
mhm,
again, if you are around anybody who's would even you remotely would even think would do that, you're in the wrong place. You need
mhm,
to yourself immediately. You need to change things. So
mhm,
point is, really work. You can create those environments too, even if you don't have control over the business or or whatever. Like you work with this group of people, you can sort of facilitate that sort of a space, right? Why do you think like this is what happens in larger organizations all the time, right?
mhm,
Your department, and you've got people within the department that are close, right? Then you've got people in the department that maybe people know don't do things a certain way, right?
mhm.
And of course, all these little talks happen over here. It's much better if you guys have an environment where when that person who is starting to do the bad or unsavory thing, literally you could talk to them straight away. The second that you notice it, that you can go right to them and be like, hey, that wasn't really a respectful way to handle that situation. Are you cool? Is everything all right? As opposed to just getting triggered and getting mad, because that's when
Right.
all breaks loose, and you really don't want that, especially in a work environment.
Well, I guess the other kind of component to that is, in order to know that you are dealing with something, struggling with something, or working through something, you kind of got to be honest with yourself and admit that. So that's kind of the other part to it. If
Yeah,
admit that you're tired or you're sick or what, overwhelmed or whatever. And I know for people, and I've talked to a lot of people well, we all know this industry, you have to wear many, 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 many hats, many hats. It's not
yeah,
like you just go and do one job. So it is that people do feel overwhelmed. And I've heard that a lot just speaking with people. We've had the running joke that every year in cannabis definitely feels like two or three.
yeah,
Um, it feels like several seasons throughout just one calendar year, but
yes,
it's very easy to find yourself there.
agreed. You and I were talking before, as you mentioned, and we both had different ways to sort of put up defense mechanisms so that we didn't have to
Mhm.
do really what was going on with us, right? Yours was just to avoid it, do the whole
Oh yeah,
traditional,
no, I
the
will
guy
admit,
thing.
I'm not
Right.
tired. I'm
Yeah,
not sick.
that's right.
I'm
Yep.
straight.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's the typical like dude thing to do for
Yep.
sure. I think a lot of people do that. It's not exclusive to men. That's for sure. Anyhow, point is that's one way to handle it. And then there's of course me, who's a little more nuanced, but still the same shit, right? I'm like, how you doing? Oh, well, I am a little tired, but got the coffee. We're good. Have a good one. We're all right. So I'm not allowing them any space to basically be like, hey, Bri, you should take care of yourself, or like to be empathetic to me, right? Because I'm like, no, I'm fine. You don't need to worry about me,
You
right?
said that your defense mechanism is to deflect with positivity. Oh,
Yep.
I've got my coffee. I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, we're fine. Like what you wouldn't know maybe is like, yes, I'm, I don't know, crashing, or like, relationships are going crazy, or, my money's not right, or like whatever it could be. But ultimately, I don't know. For me right now, I'm in a good spot, but like, but ultimately, or I feel pretty good that way. But that is also something that I know I do. So with people I can trust, I definitely try to go to that next level with them. Actually, I'm a little tired, and here's why.
Mm,
Here's the reasons why, and then I'll actually shut the hell up and let them respond. You know,
mhm,
and then, of course, if I get into a report like that, then I'm pretty good. I usually can be pretty open with people. I definitely encourage that with everybody I talk to. I think that that's important, and I try to do that way. I mean, I might be an acquired taste, certainly, but you're going to at least get me. You're going to at least get this guy that you're talking to here. So I think that's a one thing to take it back to, like, what can you do? Like,
mhm,
Aaron, what do you do? Because you're good at that. What do you do to sort of create that sort of that space with people, that knowledge, that energy? What do you do?
mhm. Interesting. Interesting. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
just
no,
thinking.
I'm asking you, what do you do to do that, right?
Sorry,
What are
I'm
things?
thinking sorry, I'm thinking about just something that you were saying just about hold on. Just hold on.
Okay,
I'm working something in my head.
sure, no problem. I'll send a quick promo for Bud for Blood. It's right there. I just put it there. Everybody, you can go check them out there.
It's really interesting.
A lot of fun, you know. So there you
Sorry,
go.
I'm having like a therapy moment time. I'm having a breakthrough. Sorry, and I just thought of something. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, we got an audience, so I'll just kind of distract them while you're collecting yourself.
Okay, no, I'm just thinking. So for me, I just don't. I just will. I refuse to acknowledge that I need help or that, it's just easier. I just keep it going. But I think so for me, but it's also a part of, and I know this from the very beginning. For me, I would never admit. So for being a professional alcoholic for many years and being sober, that in the early on, I would never admit that I was having an issue.
Sure.
So my worry, if I said I'm not doing well, would be that the people around me would be like, he might be drinking again because he's like X, Y, and Z. So
Sure.
for me, I just learned how to deal with things myself. Probably not the healthiest way to do it, but it's worked.
Pros
So
and
far.
cons. I mean, yeah, there is a lot to say about learning on your own and kind of going through the trials and tribulations. But I mean, in this respect, I think it doesn't have to be so hard. Like
No.
you make it so difficult if you can just have a good people around you that you feel like you can talk to. I mean, again, it comes back to what we were talking about last week, which is just, if you need help, ask for it, right? Like if
Right.
you're, if something's going on, say something, right? But when it comes to ourselves, it's always the hardest to do that, right? It's always the most difficult. I can tell you that till the cows come home. Hey, Aaron, you should talk to me. You can even talk to me, right?
Yeah.
Like I'll say that to anybody, and that's true. And people have taken me up on it, and I speak with them, and so and it's all good, But when it's me who needs to do it,
But that's where that's where the deflection lies, because for me, any single person, again, I've said it and post 1,000 times. You need an ear, come talk to me. Come talk to me. Come talk to me.
That's a million times.
I do the same? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Nope. So, well, it sounds like we've uncovered our own CTA for today. So, for Aaron and Brian need to not be afraid of going a little deeper with the people that they know they can trust in that regard. And we can, and we've already started with each other, so we're already making strides in this direction. So there we go. And we would encourage you to do so, especially all of you folks that have all that weirdness like we do. So
yes. And I guess, and I'm being a hypocrite here, and know that you can count. But yeah, see, this works for other people. I'm not like me. I just have to rely on me. That's just, I know it's not healthy or right.
No,
but for other people, rely on your people, the people around you. That's what you need to do.
Folks, I'll work on Aaron. I promise. He'll get there. He's going to get there. But
5.5 years of therapy, I've conquered so much stuff. But there's just a few things.
Bro, you're out here. We're just talking about this. So sorry, cat's out of the bag now. So you done did it. It's over. you admitted it's your cat's out of the bag. So now everybody knows when they ask you for help, they'll be like, nah, come on now.
and that's me. I'm an open book. I'll admit it. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to that's who I am. Right. Well, one thing that made me laugh was that when you were like, I'm an acquired taste. I'm not. Yeah, I think you and I, that's why we get along, because I'm an acquired taste too. It's like, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So
no, geez, look at that. Look at the difference between this and that. Anyways, but point is, yes, we're definitely acquired cups of tea, if you will, whatever the metaphor you'd like to use are. Bottom line is, I don't know if everybody else experiences this, but as I get older, I care less about that. I don't mean it in a rude way. I certainly still have empathy for anyone in my world and anyone who's new to my world. I'm a loving, caring person who genuinely cares about your health and well-being, truthfully. But I can't really worry about stuff I can't control.
Right.
If I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, sure, we all improve, right? That sort of a thing. We need to be chipping away at it constantly. Lifelong learner, you're going to change, you're going to continue to grow and discover things, and some of those discoveries are going to be really hard to process because you'll connect dots that you don't feel comfortable connecting, and so you got to be willing to sort of do that. But that being said, it's really, really worth doing so. It really does help.
It's a milestone when you can figure out and get there that other people's opinions of you don't really hold any weight, because you're around yourself 24. I've said this to my kids since we're little. you need to be good with you. You're around yourself 24/7.
Yep.
So what other people think of you really doesn't matter.
You
As
know,
long
I
as
mean,
you're not being an asshole, and hopefully you're not being an asshole. But
and
you
I'm
know,
not suggesting that you shouldn't listen to him,
no,
but
no, that's not the takeaway. Become an asshole and not
no,
care.
that's exactly right. Like, and
That's
so
the antithesis of what we're trying to do every
that's right.
single week. It's try to
That's
be a
right.
better person and have more empathy and understanding for everyone. But you don't need to have so much understanding that someone else's understanding of you determines who you are.
Correct. That's right.
That's
You know, yes, you should give a crap if your boss is not liking you. You know, that should matter to you. But but you can't control it beyond what you can control in that environment. So, okay, if you recognize that that's the situation, don't fixate on what the boss is upset about. Try to address it from your end. Okay, well, maybe you disagree. Do you want to talk to him or her? Right? Maybe it's something about your performance that they don't like. Maybe it's a technique you disagree with and you've been sort of stubborn about it. Would it kill you to adopt it? You know, would it kill you to compromise? If so, then maybe talk to them about that. Right? Settle it's the unspoken and the unknown that plague us. It just is. Like, why do people obsess on what other people are doing? It's because they don't have the courage to just ask. Or to just go, hey, why are you doing this? Or how come this happened? Right?
Right.
I've never had a problem being that kind of person. And I don't know why that is. I'm thankful for it for sure. Because if I feel that negativity, I'm nipping it in the bud as quickly as I possibly can. Because when it festers, it becomes 100 times worse every time. No matter what it is, no matter what facet of your life it's going on in, whether it's a work relationship, a personal relationship, societal stuff, it all applies. If you hold it in and don't address it with either yourself or the things that are causing you to feel this way, it hurts you more than everything else.
And let's expand on that, because actually it's funny, in my kids, whenever I say rocking the shoe, they laugh, because early on that was kind of my strategy to deal with things. Well, it's like I would ignore things, but then with the girls, it's like, no, literally, it's the rock and the shoe. Like, you're running with the rock, and I use you're running, and like that rock will tear your foot apart. You need to just stop, take the shoe off, take the rock off, deal with the situation, and then you keep going.
Stop walking. Stop walking,
take
it off, get that pebble out of there, put it back on, and get rocking.
Well, and then and probably 9 times out of 10, you will be surprised to find out that what you had imagined in your head, what you thought, why someone was doing something, wasn't that way at all.
That's
and
usually
you're working on your own negative perspective of that person, as opposed to actually bringing it to them and saying, why do you do that?
That's right.
I feel as though, when you do that,
you wander like that, that's when you start putting up even more barriers towards doing the very simple thing that would alleviate a lot of problems. You start creating those like scenarios in your head, and then they become real, and then you become even more afraid. And this is all just stemming from the fact that you didn't want to have a slightly uncomfortable conversation with somebody.
So conversations need to happen. That's the CTA. Conversations need to happen to let others know where you're at. And again, it's not just work with your family.
No,
if you have family members, kids, whatever, spouses.
This is becoming a very overarching theme of our show here. As a matter of fact, is say something.
Yeah. Whether, oh, well, you know what? And hey, so if people think it's that we focus on the negative, I'm not saying anyone thinks that, but here's the positive to that. With each person, you also need to say something if someone is doing something that you appreciate. It works both ways. I really appreciate when you did this. I like when I can come and tell you that. I feel, that's also
my favorite is making people uncomfortable with a good, solid compliment. I love doing that, because bottom line is usually when they either didn't expect it from you or they haven't been getting complimented enough. And usually my knee jerk is to say, well, you deserve it. I mean, I'm just calling it like I see it. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. Every time anybody I've ever given it to you, I probably said that to you before. I usually say that anytime I'm giving a compliment, because generally people are very kind and respond in some way, a form of fact, thank you so much, or that's really nice of you to say, stuff like that. And, my follow-up usually to that is, well, certainly you've earned it. I think anybody would know. I think anybody would see that, So if you're not hearing this enough, you should be. So I'm glad I was able to do that, because that's like, again, you're so right. Energy is like a real thing, everybody. It matters. You know, when you walk into a room, you know, what you're bringing with you affects everyone around you. When you're, you know, in the like grocery store and you're fighting with your significant other, right? If you don't think that people are feeling that, you're fooling yourself. The people around you 100%, even if you're trying to be discreet, even if they can't hear necessarily what you're saying, that energy alone, you can just tell by the body language, the tension, you can feel it, right? Certainly if people walk by you, they'll definitely feel it, right? So these are real things. I'm not making this up. I'm not some, you know, incredible scientist or anything like that. Like, this is real things, you know. Ultimately you have to be aware of that, right? Doesn't mean you can't have that argument. If it's meant to be that time, it is. And maybe you don't give a fuck what anybody else thinks, and that's fair, you know. But ultimately, be cognizant of where you are. Be
what
present.
you're putting out.
Yeah, that's what they mean. Be present. Don't get lost in the sauce. Don't get triggered that way, because then you don't care, and then you're just going to be all just, you know, emotion, right? And that's nothing wrong with sharing your emotions, but you're not going to be doing it in a way that probably is in line with how you'd like to be as a human.
And
You're going to be acting as opposed to being proactive.
That's what people need to understand about energy, is that people can read it on you. They see what you're putting out. And this phrase has been like popping around in my head for like a week, is that you are the energy that you dabble in. So if you dabble in negative energy and all this other shit, that's what you become. Like, you reap what you sow. If that's all you're interested in is ginning up this nonsense, then that's what happens. And that energy. So it is about energy.
It is. Well, control what you can control, right? Well, you can control your own energy to a degree, right? And you can enter into situations, and if you're aware of that, then you can adjust yourself accordingly much quicker. You will understand what's happening around you a lot faster as well. That way, you can sort of adjust, you know, in a nice way.
And back to something that you said, just in terms of, you know, like giving people confidence and letting people know how you feel. That has been, you know, in recent, like the last year or two, that has really been something that has been important to me, is that I like give people their flowers, like the people who are around me, whether your kids, my wife, my moms, my dads, all, like, I have to let them know, like, hey, I appreciate you, I love you, because they won't be here forever. So that's also
for me. I just always, people I give a crap about, I want to make sure, like, again, it goes back to, I always say this, there's selfish and noble reasons for everything, right? The noble is, I do love you, I do appreciate you, I want you to know that. It's important for me to know that. The selfish is, I want you to, like, in case we don't talk again, or it goes a long time or whatever, I want to leave you with, you know, my honest truth, or how I really feel about you. And
I want you to know exactly how I feel about you. 100%.
Exactly right. And I think that's important, you know, for everyone involved, you know, and even if it's negative, you know, that's something that you should address, you know. I mean, you don't have to be an asshole or anything. And I think if you are able to talk about that aspect with somebody, that's really strong. Like, if you're going through something difficult, you're parting businesses, you're breaking up, you're doing something, and you're able to actually handle that with sort of maturity and grace, and speak with one another about it, even though you understand you're partying, or that the relationship's going to be diminished to a certain degree, or maybe you're not spending money with each other in the same ways, right? But it's important to acknowledge, even like, yep, it didn't work out how we wanted to, and I don't think that, you know, certainly we didn't identify this as what we wanted at first, but here's some good things that came out of it, certainly. And I don't seek to, like, destroy this relationship, but obviously it's gonna be a little different, you know. Those are hard conversations to have, but very warm. That you got to do stuff like that, because it'll help everyone involved, most especially yourself.
So then all right, so let's look at the reason why people don't do that, and it's to be vulnerable, and they don't. So we've come back full circle now.
Of course, right? Like, why don't people do it? That's easy. It's because you don't want to, like, be taken advantage of, or you don't want to, you know, and unfortunately all of us have had things like that happen to us.
Right.
So, and when they happen, you know, like, it's hard to, like, for me, I don't forgive very easily.
Oh.
So
I'm an Aquarius. I don't forgive.
I can get to a place.
I don't forgive at all.
I can get to a place where I'm cool with you, and I can get to it because it's unhealthy for me to hold a grudge. It's unhealthy for me to fixate on some sort of like, past relationship or uncomfortable situation or whatever. The only reason people do that is because there's a limbo associated with it, right? There's an unknown that they can't get over not knowing, hence the need to talk. Because the bottom line is, like, that's the thing that destroys us, I think, is the not knowing, the unknown, well, I get that this happened, but I don't understand every aspect of it. Am I supposed to just drop this and be fine with that and let that linger in my mind for gosh knows how long? Or do I actually have some, and unfortunately, yeah, sometimes you might reach out to somebody like, hey, we need to hash this out. And they're like, screw you, I'm done. Right? That could happen, I suppose. But then if that's the case, go talk to somebody else about it so that at least you can get to a place where you're sort of okay with it, right? Or maybe bounce it off of like, this person is acting crazy. I don't even know. Did I do something in this scenario? Right? Go over it with a third party, that you feel, that you trust, that you can talk to. Maybe you did screw up, and you don't know it, and then of course you realize then you need to do what's right. You need to go assert yourself and reach out to that person or that and talk about what was wrong and admit your fault in it, that sort of thing. This is why we don't talk, because people don't want to do that piece. If they've screwed up or it's been their fault that they stumbled upon, I'd rather just let it hide and let it go away than actually
right, and hope it goes away. But it doesn't go away. None of it goes away.
You know where it doesn't go away? Here. So what a stupid maneuver when you think about it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me sweep it under the rug so that I'm the only one who gets to assess about it.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely isolate it and internalize all those negative feelings and even come up with a whole bunch of other reasons that don't even exist as to why this is a bad thing. It's going to be terrible and that I should shut up and now I can't even trust these people. Oh, now they're bad people. Oh, now they're right. You just.
Right.
And it's all to protect yourself. It's all shit. You know what I mean? It's all crap that we make up to basically protect ourselves when we don't address what's going on.
Right. Well, and I'll butcher the saying, but it's like in holding in that negativity, it's like, hating someone is like you taking the poison and waiting for them to die. Like it doesn't work that way.
That's right. Right? Like, why do people get into self-destructive habits? A lot of times it's this kind of thing. There's things that are going on in their life they never got closure on. They couldn't address. They can't get over that they've done themselves, perhaps. Right? All sorts of things, right? Family trauma, we can go down the line. Work trauma, money trauma. There's all sorts of reasons to be traumatized, like we all have been to a degree. I'm quite positive of it. It's how again, it's all the corny cliches. Like like all I could think of when you were talking earlier was that the famous, well, it's an Alfred quote, but it's known in Batman, right? Is why do we fall, Bruce? So we can get back up.
Right.
That's the truth. Why do we fall? So we can get back up. That's why.
So the kind of takeaway is that people need to talk to people. See, I'm the broken record with therapy, but that's just me. But you do well. See, and the reason why I am is because a lot of the things in it, and it goes to that behavior of you sit there and you obsess about this or the negativity. The great part about therapy is if you are willing to do the work and you are willing to be brutally honest with yourself, you can not solve, but you can put a lot of the issues that you have had, a lot of the things that have held you back into such a perspective and understanding that it's just amazing. But it does take being able to critically look at yourself to be able to be your own harshest critic, or just not harshest critic, but to be brutally honest with yourself. That's how you get better. Again, if you look at the problem and acknowledge the problem, because you can't solve any problem that you're not willing to acknowledge. So when you can acknowledge the problem, own the mistake or the issue or whatever it is, then that is no longer something that can keep you back. You can beat it. That's my opinion anyway, or at least that's how I feel that things have worked out in my process in the last 5.5 years.
So I bought a car recently, or a used car, about 6 months ago. And first month or so was fine. It's been terrible ever since. It's been in the shop 2 months. It certainly qualifies for lemon. I got to call a lawyer to figure it out. That said, I have a warranty and insurance, so it hasn't really killed me in terms of my own finances beyond just having to pay those monthly payments and the down payment in the general. I'm like, Jesus, I don't need a car, right? And so, ultimately, and then I realized, and basically this, without getting into too much detail, after that first time I took it in, periodically, literally every time they were like, "Yep, it's cool," I'd take it home. I'd have it for maybe a week. Boom, something else would happen, and I'd have to get it towed and taken back. And that happened like 5 times in like 3 months, right? And and so at the end of that, I'm really nervous because I'm in this big transition in my life, as you know, and some others that might listen know. Right, all this great career stuff is happening. I'm moving. I'm having some very very big changes in my personal life as well that are coming along with all of this, right? And so there's a lot of nervousness and scared fear along with that, not to mention excitement and positivity and all that stuff too. And I started like really obsessing on the car. I started freaking out every time I would need to drive it because I just so many times I would just turn it on and fuck, the starter's fucked, the battery's wrong, the transmission's screwed, and so I was getting like triggered just by the thought that I needed to drive somewhere. That
sounds like my first Chevy Chevette, but go ahead.
And I'm still just getting over this, to be fair. I'm talking to lawyers, I'm trying to figure this out. Anyhow, but the car is running, right? It's fine. It's actually been fine, knock on wood, for a couple of weeks. For me, I'm just I need to move in a month. Can I just make sure that it's okay until then, right? This is terrible. I should not be having to think this. This is not like I'm being like, you shouldn't have this experience when you get into even a used car. And so legally, I'm aware that this is abnormal, and so I'm taking cash in that way. However, me internally, right, literally going, dude, every time. And so I wake up thinking about my stupid car when I've got all this other stuff, cool stuff going on, all this great stuff. And then on top of that, I'm even taking care of with the car, right? Even if I do go down right now and I start it and it's all messed up, okay, just bring the tow truck in, tow it to the place, have the stuff.
I understand, but your brain doesn't. But your brain wants to.
It wants to.
Your brain wants to process it.
What I realized I was doing is just using it as a metaphor for the large scale change that's going on. Right. I was just associating the car as basically like with the nervousness and the scary feelings I have about these major transitions that are taking place, right? And so I would obsess on like, oh my gosh, but I'm not going to be able to move if the car can't be fixed. Bull crap. I would be able to move. I'd still be able to have it fine. There's nothing preventing me from that. Why is that thought happening? Because I'm scared, right? And I know that the car is a problem, right? So I'm just associating the two together on much larger than it actually is. Yeah, the car's but it's exemplified because I have all this like nervous energy around these big transitions that are happening. So that's why when I wake up and I'm like, why are you obsessed with in my head, I'm going, why are you being obsessed with the car? It's not the car. It's not the car, right? It's just what the car sort of represents to you and the larger picture that's happening to you. And it's okay to be scared about large transitions.
And that's all right. So, and that speaks to that. So that speaks to you being able to self-analyze,
But that's only because work has been done prior that you talk about, right? So again, I'm not special in this way. I didn't just come upon these sorts of strategies or the ways to do it. I had to like learn, work at it, figure it out. You know what I mean? Like figure it out for myself, and that sort of a thing. And honestly, I'm not perfect. So like, I think anybody could use a therapist. I certainly have people that I speak to regularly that I can be vulnerable with, and I am. So I'm not suggesting that I am the end all be all or that we're not professionals. In fact, if anything, we're encouraging you to liaise with professionals if you feel fit to do so. But at the very least,
I just said I can't ask for help. What are you talking about? I admit mine, but I can
That's right. That's right. What are you talking about? I'm all squared away. We're good, right? Anyhow, yes, like talk to people, or if you're really having a big problem, yes, like reach out to a therapist. Most people I know who go to therapy like it just for regular maintenance. You know what I mean? Just to have somebody that they can speak with. It's a third party, unbiased. You can talk to them as raw and honest as you possibly could with anybody about even the weirdest, craziest shit that's going on in your head. And they'll help you kind of navigate those waters, right? And they're professionally trained to do so, right? So again, and that's another thing. When you yourself, or if you're basically working or helping somebody, but then they present in a way that's like, yo, that's, there's a little bit more going on here. Encourage them to see a therapist, because if it's at a place where it's like, oh shit, this isn't normal stuff that I hear day to day, they've kind of got some real issues going on, I would encourage you to like encourage them to do more, because you don't also want to put that on yourself. Then when people are having serious problems, deep depression, super duper trauma, things of that nature, addiction, etc. Those aren't things that like your buddy can help you with.
Right.
Or I mean, you can be a kind ear, certainly, and you should acknowledge that, but there's serious issues like deserve sort of professional attention, in my opinion.
And here's the thing, and everyone, I was having this conversation with someone recently, like nobody wants to admit that everyone's still a little bit broken from the pandemic. It's like we've all just moved on and everything's fine, but nobody wants to kind of look at like there's still a lot of broken people. There's still a lot of shit that's not right. I mean, we can look at everything going on in the world and say there's a lot of shit that is not copacetic and it is not where it was 8 years ago. So I think that everyone
we also simultaneously know more, and it's all been confirmed.
Right.
Like, we know the inequities, the structural, garbage, the racism intertwined, the sexism and misogyny, the
rolling back women's rights. I mean,
right,
taking away women's rights.
The way people cut corners, and what marketing and advertising really is, and how much is propaganda, and what is the fine line between propaganda and marketing, and like these are all things that are just normally kind of discussed. Maybe not in the way I just described, but certainly it's out there in the ether, and you can see all tons of conversations with all sorts of people up from all backgrounds and age ranges talking about these things, right? So, and then of course now what we talked about last week, there's a whole groups of people who take advantage of the confusion, right? And like try to divide even further on levels that we weren't able to divide each other before. So yay for those folks, right? But the truth is, the antidote to all of this is togetherness and communication, love, empathy, all the things that we were taught by our old fathers and grandfathers that made us soft. That's the trick, is that it doesn't. It's actually the stuff that makes you strong and a man, and it allows you to be sort of that defender, that protector that you have inside of you. It allows you to do that better.
You just made me think of something, and probably one of the things, and we do need to have conversations with people and each other and therapists or whatever, and the frustration, because right now many people find themselves in places where you are listening to things that are 1000% not normal, and you're pretending that it is
correct,
fucking normal, and
wrong.
Not. Like, so, and this goes back to something we were talking about a couple weeks ago, is that, if you're not uncomfortable in the world right now with all that is going on, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not going to throw
there is a decent amount comfortable about. So yes, if you're not at least,
if you're not uncomfortable with what's going on right now, good luck. I commend you. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're doing a lot. Good for you. You're lucky.
I mean, ultimately, again, the part of it goes back to you can only control what you can control. So I get that, but ultimately, I mean, there's enough going on that we've all discovered collectively that we're like, oh crap. And I think the scary part is like most of us, or a lot of people are just like, well, there's nothing I can do, which you can make a case for, to be fair. And so ultimately that's what's scary. That's why you just sort of, like I think there is a lot of sort of realizations and collective trauma we've experienced that we don't know what to do because our leaders won't exercise the demons, or they won't acknowledge even what we've done. You know what I mean? Like if you look at other places, other countries, they've at least acknowledged things and been like, yeah, this was bad. We shouldn't have done this. Here's what we're going to try to do to rectify it. We're going to try to grow from here. Let's go ahead and move forward, right? Like we don't even do that. And I think America is just a metaphor for all of our struggles as people together, which is we slide shit under the rug. We don't address issues. We
address issues. We gaslight.
Speak out of both sides of our mouth, right? We say one thing and we do another. Like it's, I like you need to look in the mirror, and really contemplate sort of how much of that you're really doing, yourself, How much are you buying into? How much are you sort of stroking, even accidentally or subconsciously, right?
Well, then that goes into the whole thing of like whether you're standing up for thank you. Whether you're part of the problem or part of the solution.
Yeah. And speaking of which, there's CTAs, right? So be part of the solution, not part of the problem. That's one, right? As always, talk to people, right? When stuff's going on.
Speak
right?
up. You need to speak up. And how about this? Another call to action in terms of being part of the solution and not the problem. Speak up when you hear things that are not right, because one of my biggest things that just drives me crazy on a daily basis is that to watch bullies walk around the world and shit on people. Yeah, yeah. So
if you see any
say
bully,
something.
like if you see anybody that has anywhere resembling any sort of platform bullying people, rest assured it's being done for monetary purposes.
Seriously.
That's it. Like it literally. Like I can't speak for the like dude who like the guy on Twitter that's in his basement or whatever and has 100 followers or whatever, and it's just taking cheat shots because he's been conditioned by whatever he watches or what have you. So fair enough, there's a lot of that too. But anybody with any semblance of even a handful of 1,000 followers that's doing that is certainly trying to do so for either clout and or money, and that's it. There is no other reason that they're doing it. Because clicks work and engagement drives money to you.
And we had we put it, but we said this last week. But here's the thing, or I was just where I'm dumbfounded, where I just don't understand is that it's so transparent.
Not to everybody.
How do people not see?
If I can successfully, convince you that this pill cures everything, you'll take it. That's the truth.
But to sit there, like I'm just giving one of the examples of the people who profit off that.
Sure.
Like to see, like if you see someone sitting there being extra manly, smoking, and they're just shitting on women, blah 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 blah. It's like, dude, you're so transparent. Like it's just lame. So that's the thing I don't get. So yeah, if you do see the bullying, please say something. Bullies need to be punched in their mouths. I'm sorry.
Literally, I agree. I mean, literally, if somebody's platform is that, right? Whether it's men, women, bashing like gay people, maybe, or like, or race in some form or fashion or whatever, yeah, it's really just not like it's low vibration more than anything. Like I can get into like these are trash people and how dare they and like we should stand up for ourselves. It's just low hanging fruit that's lame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the grand scheme of it, it's just easy. Like why would you insult your own intelligence by looking at things like that or watching that or engaging with that sort of stuff? Like you look like the bigger idiot because the people that are doing that, you can at least say, hey man, they saw a business opportunity, they struck, their integrity is what it is. Not everybody's required to have that. They have a proper business that they can profit from that's illegal in the States. It is what it is, right? So to that degree, I can at least be like, well, shoot, it's a business, like, so is it worse the people who are doing it or the people who fall victim to it, right? I wouldn't say it's a victim. You have a choice to engage with that content. You have a choice to like, share, etc. That said, there's also a responsibility on those people's hands that are doing that because they know what they're doing, and that's really the short-term game, but the net long-term is really negative and bad, and also just a disgrace in a lot of ways.
You have a responsibility for yourself. I mean, come on, dude.
And so that's sort of what I'm saying. Is like, I can't appeal to the people doing it because they're too far gone. So I'm not going to ever convince and I don't want to say any names, but people who do this for success, we're not going to have any success trying to get them to stop. No. But what we can do is appeal to the people watching it and go, what are you doing? Like we can give you better advice. We can help you here. This is a growing community where you'll be.
We actually give a shit about your well-being.
People care about you or what have you.
Come on, dude.
And why would you not want that? You're still getting the same sort of. You're getting even more knowledge. You know what I mean? When you're working with people who are that, like, again, what's the takeaway for you? Like, is it just to stroke your own ego? I get that, but Like,
but no, but see, here's the major difference. And no, and this is the difference. But we have call to actions. We have ways like, and this is like the work that we are willing, like the work I'll speak the work that I've done for myself are things that I've discovered. But what we're not telling people to settle into, like, what you're doing is great. Like, you know, treat
yeah,
people
no.
like shit. Everyone owes you everything, man. And it's all their fault. So no, it's not, it won't be the same message because our message requires, you know, at least
you to do some work. Yeah.
some self-examination or some, but
Yes.
it's work that's gonna help you in the long run. And again, I don't want to make it seem like we're like giving people homework assignments, but just the things that we're speaking to are things that are going to make you critically look at yourself and your actions, or look at other people and try to get their perspective and empathy and understanding and know what's going on with them. Like, that work is not required to just, because they're not asking people to try to be better for the greater overall
No,
society.
they're not linking their advice, so to speak, to sort of a greater good. You're right. You know,
Be
it's
like
all
me and do
being
this and do
victimized,
that.
and you deserve more, and you're being so. Pay for my platform so that I can tell you more about this, right?
Right.
Or give my Patreon so that you can see me really tell you what I feel about this, that, or the other thing, right? And it's just a rabbit hole that gets more enticing for people because they don't want to admit what's wrong with themselves. You know,
I didn't even think about people paying for it. I just thought of like tuning in for free and like,
no, man, those
no,
guys
they make a lot of
and
money.
they are
So
guys.
no,
So
you're right. I didn't even think about that.
most of these guys are profiting off of the audience, right? In so many ways, right? Whether it's the YouTube views or sponsorship opportunities, right? Leads that funnel into different things, or having products that they could sell. You know, that's what you're doing. Is
I
you're
forgot
you know,
there were like 50. One of them had a $50 million contract that he said was slave wages.
yeah. I mean,
So yeah, I forgot
like,
that it is lucrative.
yeah, yes, it can be. And anyhow, so yes, our CTAs are, say something, got to do the
Yes.
work, ask for help if you need it. Don't be afraid to be, vulnerable with people you can trust. If
Yeah.
something's going wrong, let them know. Even your people that you work with professionally, in fact, especially the people that you work with professionally. So that's it for this week. Aaron, always a pleasure, brother. Appreciate
All right,
you.
brother.
Love you.
Yes. Love you too, pal.
All right,
Later
bro.
on, folks.
We'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week. Go get them.